I've heard a lot of good things about education in Canada, but what exactly is different from Korea? Because of work, my son's gifted education, and my daughter's art education, we moved from Coquitlam, where the kids were born, to Vancouver, and settled in North Vaughan, while sending my daughter to Sentinel Secondary, which is famous for its art programs in West Vancouver. I am a mom who has directly experienced public education across 4 cities within BC. I won't say that education in Canada is perfect. There were times I was disappointed, and many aspects that fell short of my expectations. Nevertheless, I do not regret the choice of raising my children here when it comes to education. I often thought that if Korea could learn, even just a few things from this, it could significantly lessen the pain in the children's lives. I'll share the real story of the Canadian education system that I've experienced firsthand while raising my 2 kids from kindergarten to 12th grade. I am a mom from North Vancouver with 24 years of immigrant life. One of the biggest mistakes that newcomers make when looking for a home is related to the school system. In Canada, the education system varies from one school district to another. For example, Coquitlam, where many Koreans live, has a middle school, 5 years of elementary school, 3 years of middle school, and 4 years of high school. Since it goes through 3 stages like in Korea, children have relatively more time to adapt. On the other hand, the areas I live in, including North Vancouver, as well as Vancouver, Burnaby, and West Vancouver, are different. There is no middle here. Elementary school goes all the way up to 7th grade. In Korea, that's equivalent to the first year of middle school, and the moment you become an 8th grader, you go straight to secondary. This means that you will directly enter a school with 12th graders, preparing for college entrance exams. So the grade of the child is really important when moving to a new city. A child who attended middle school in Coquitlam might become an elementary student again when coming to North Van. Or conversely, they might suddenly have to start high school life without being mentally prepared. Questions to check when moving. From which grade does that neighborhood have secondary education? It's really important. Also, what I was really grateful for was the summer vacation program. During the first 3 weeks of the long summer vacation of more than 2 months, there are classes for about 3 to 4 hours a day, which include review and preview sessions. But students can also choose from various subjects, like science and art that capture their interest. My kids alternated between science and art classes, and every time I picked them up, they would proudly bring back a handful of their own creations. Whether it was camping or traveling, we always scheduled these classes to take place in August after they ended. Most cities, except for North Van, have these classes available, and of course, they are free. In addition to elementary school, there are summer classes in secondary education, but this is on a completely different level from elementary school. It is more like remedial classes that students who are short on class days, homework or grades must take to graduate. I believe it is the education office's consideration to ensure that no student falls behind by solidifying their foundation. You don't have to be too obsessed with the location of elementary schools when looking for a house. This is because in Canada, specifically in British Columbia, children under the age of 10 cannot go to and from school alone. The child protection laws are very strict, so you must go to the front of the classroom and hand them over to the teacher. Similarly, when school is over, the teacher checks if a guardian has come and lets each student out, one by one. In other words, even if the house is right in front of the school, it means that parents must drop off and pick up their children every day. The problem is secondary. Although they've become an upperclassman who can go to school alone, if you chose a secondary school far from home, it really becomes difficult from that point on. Public transportation in Canada is not as frequent as in Korea. The bus intervals are about 20 to 30 minutes. This is only during school hours. Outside of those times, it can be more than 30 minutes or even completely unavailable. On days when there are club activities, the child has to walk 30 minutes to the main road to catch the bus. And in the end, most parents end up giving them a ride. If it snows, it's really chaotic. Buses can't operate. For the freedom of parents and the mental well-being of children, make sure to choose a house within a secondary walking distance to school or a place that can be reached by a single bus ride. This way, children can continue to grow up together with their neighborhood friends until high school, maintaining their friendships and ensuring their emotional stability. Shall we go inside the school now? In Canada, compulsory education starts from kindergarten at age 5. One aspect that surprises Korean parents the most is the choice of language. Canada has English and French as its official languages. So, there are French schools or French immersion programs in any city. The kindergarten program has the advantage of being able to take classes in multiple languages. Depending on the region, there are also schools where classes can start in languages spoken at home, such as Japanese or Chinese. It's only 1 year, but it's a very important time for the child. It's a system that gives children time to adapt to the unfamiliar environment of school. If you're considering French immersion, you must start in kindergarten with French. Many parents are worried. They say that if a child can't even speak English, learning French will just make it zero languages. But from my experience, children are really like sponges. Instead of mixing languages like French, English, and Korean in their head, separate spaces are created. The language that fits the situation comes out naturally without translation. Because of this language comprehension ability, many people intentionally come to study abroad. These days, there are classes for Chinese, Japanese, and even Korean. At my child's school, there is a Korean class. And while they understand everything, my children, who are a bit slow to speak, said the level was too low, so they gave up. The teaching methods are really different from those in Korea. What parents find most surprising is that there are no textbooks. Instead of just drilling knowledge into children, they teach them how to use the tools available to find information. For each subject, they either print the necessary materials as needed, or have the children conduct their own research. Of course, the school is equipped with laptops and tablets. Children who need them can borrow them to take home and do their homework. There are many team projects, and starting from the 3rd grade, students create PPTs and give presentations. At first, there are complaints like, why do we all get the same score? But over time, the kids learn on their own. Division of roles, negotiation, and responsibility. That's what society is. In addition to museums, space centers, science centers, and aquariums, children in Vancouver learn how to live through experiential learning by visiting salmon, spawning grounds, and witnessing salmon swimming upstream. In elementary school, experiential learning and hands-on education take precedence over desk study. Art, music, soccer, basketball, badminton, swimming, paddleboarding, kayaking, cycling, skating, skiing, snowshoeing, hockey. The school is fully prepared so that no child has to miss out on learning due to lack of money. This is truly a system that parents raising children are very grateful for. Then this question arises. How can a teacher take care of the kids all by themselves? Typically, there are about 15 students in a class. And when you move to higher grades, there can be up to 24 children. That's why parental volunteering is mandatory in Canadian schools. No matter how busy both parents are with work, they must volunteer at least once a year. Since the ratio of guardians to students must be adjusted to between 1 to 8 and 1 to 10 for experiential learning to be possible, teachers request this several months in advance. Many parents are willing to support, especially for younger grades. Children who participate with their parents naturally take pride in them. Parents who understand this eagerly volunteer their resources. As the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. I believe that the overall social atmosphere, where it's normal for parents to take personal days or vacations for school events, performances, and games, contributes to this. As a single mom, I receive tremendous consideration. Working only 7 hours a day, Canada prioritizes the safety and protection of minors above all else. The reason I stayed in Canada instead of returning to Korea after my divorce was precisely because of this culture. Here, it's not about how long you sit. It's about whether you accomplish the tasks assigned to you. Also, what if custody and child support cannot be agreed upon? Divorce is impossible then. If child support is unpaid, wage garnishment is a given, and it can lead to up to 2 years of imprisonment. Even after serving time, wages will be garnished until all overdue. Child support is paid. I learned that when studying accounting, the top priority for wage garnishment is child support. It means that it takes precedence over any debt. Since the government is taking this stance, companies have no choice but to respect the time parents need for raising their children. Returning to the topic of schools, The core of Canadian education is not the three core subjects, but values. Treat the others the way you want to be treated. This is the value system of this country. And children learn about Indigenous history for 12 years. They keep reflecting on what mistakes Canada made. The same goes for homework. The principle of elementary schools in Canada is to finish everything learned at school and complete the review. In other words, the homework brought home is likely not assigned, but rather a review that couldn't be completed during class. Therefore, a child who frequently brings homework home is called in by the teacher to speak with the parents. This is to discuss whether there is a reason for the child not being able to concentrate rather than simply being lazy. It could be because they are neurodivergent, such as having ADHD, autism, or being gifted. In other words, it means that their brain functions and the way they interact with the world have a different spectrum compared to the general population. It implies that they require a different learning method that is not the typical learning approach. So, in order to provide the necessary support for learning through the IEP, Individual Education Plan, Tailored Learning Method, teachers, principals, and parents discuss together to create a system that allows for the best choices for the children. My son benefited from this by attending classes with a laptop and typing, instead of taking notes in a regular notebook, until he entered secondary school. In addition, even if a child has a disability like Down syndrome, they can attend regular school if the parents wish. Instead, a 11 aide is assigned to attend classes with them. If the child is struggling, there is a small room next to the classroom. Here, they take breaks with the assistant teacher or have individual lessons. It's not about isolation, it's about matching the pace. Children grow up in this environment and naturally learn that people with disabilities are not pitiable beings, but friends who are just a little different from them. Children who grow up learning about global holidays like Christmas, Lunar New Year, and Halloween. Kids who naturally recognize and enjoy each other's differences, rather than resorting to racism. When I see my son and daughter, who have grown up in a school culture that chooses integration over discrimination, combining the warmth of Korean affection and Canadian consideration, I feel that all the discomfort caused by the free healthcare that troubled me in the past has been compensated. So I really think I made the right choice, raising my kids in Canada. In Part 2, I will explain the differences between private and public schools in Canada, and for those in higher grades who need to worry about college admissions, I will provide information about secondary schools, including IB and AP programs, to help you find the right fit for your child.